$20 million profit made part-time, invest in 2 to 4 hours per week in real estate. And today I'm going to share with you one of my favorite tips and strategies that has contributed to that $20 million. And I'm going to explain this with a short story. So our model that actually has been featured and recommended by Fortune magazine involves, on the buying end, buying primarily bank-owned foreclosures, also known as REOs, which stands for real estate owned property. Once we've purchased these bank-owned properties at a discount, we market them for sale or lease option. Those that are marketed and we get a buyer, we'll take our quick cash and turn it into 2 or 3 more properties. But if we can't find a buyer, instead of renting the property, we put it on a lease purchase. A lease purchase has often been called a hybrid between renting and owning. You get a higher caliber tenant, you give that tenant the right to buy the property in the future, and in exchange for that right, one of the responsibilities the tenant takes on is taking care of the property, repairs and maintenance. Now, we bought this property years ago, and typically we buy properties that need a good amount of rehab to get it into move-in condition. This was a really unique property. It was, the kitchen was fine, it was just dated and brown. The bathrooms were fine, they're just dated and brown. The hallways, brown carpet, beige paint. Living room, everything was passable but drab. All right. Now, when we offer our properties for lease sale or lease purchase, if we can't flip the property, we almost always get a lease purchaser in 1 or 2 weeks because we offer really attractive terms. This particular property, week 4, week 5, week 6, week 7, nothing. And I was showing the property and was really interested. One family would walk through and say, "Oh, look at that kitchen." Another family, "Oh, look at that living room." Another family, "Oh, the master bathroom. Oh, the guest bathrooms. Carpet. Oh." All these families had different complaints about the property. And this creates one of the most interesting dynamics about real estate investing. And that is, you're buying property and you're fixing up property, but you haven't met your customer yet. And you don't know what's important to your customer. In all the years that I've invested, I have found that most family units have a dominant part of the home that's most important to them. Could be to one family, it's the kitchen. Everything else is secondary to the kitchen. Could be to another family, it's the master bathroom. Everything is secondary to the master bathroom. It could be to another family, it's the guest bathrooms. It could be a living room. So the irony is we buy these homes that need rehab and we're fixing up the properties without knowing what's important to the customer that we haven't met yet. And this can result in investors trying to second guess themselves and outsmart themselves and to figure out, well, I better put my money into this part of the home, and where that won't be unhelpful, it may not be the right way to spend your money for the customer that you haven't met yet. So let's simplify rehab. There are things that you have to do, like you better put on that new roof. If water's coming down when you're walking through the home needs a new roof. And then there's things that you might need to do to get the home sold or rented or at least purchased. An example could be updating the master bath or updating the kitchen. So this particular home was a unique problem because you could easily have spent $60,000, $70,000 in rehab and still not address the one part of the home that was most important to the customer you haven't met yet. So after getting this feedback for all these weeks that was been different, one family complaining about this part of the home, family complaining about that part of the home, we were faced with a problem, or a dynamic is a better way to put it. Do we go ahead and just update everything and spend $60,000, $70,000? Or do we just keep doing what we're doing and hope we find a family that doesn't care? We came up with an idea. So again, before I say the solution to you, let me just remind you, we were putting in $60,000, $70,000 into this home. So instead, we came up with a concept. We kept our lease purchase terms, and we added on the bottom of our flyer, ask me about $10,000 improvement allowance. All right? So once the families came into the home, and they came into the home excited about our lease purchase terms, and they typically were depressed about the quality of the home and all the brown. So now we changed our terms. Well, we kept our terms as they are, but we added this $10,000 improvement allowance. So people came in, I said, let me explain how this works. We will release $10,000 of our money to vendors that you will select, or for Home Depot or wherever you choose to get the hardware to fix up this property. And all you got to do is submit the plans. We have veto power just to make sure that your plans really will add value to the property. But we're not going to veto anything unless it's something odd like putting a fountain out front, but fixing up the kitchen or updating the master bath. We're going to let you use our money to make this your dream home. And it was absolutely fascinating. You could have written a psychological dissertation about what I witnessed that first weekend. The conversations the families were having as they walked through the home went from what they didn't like about the house to how am I going to spend this guy's money. And the cutest thing, I'd watch a husband and wife fight. Well, I want to put it on into the kitchen. I want to put it into the master bath. And I would say, guys, particularly if you happen to be handy, there's enough money to do both. And it was, the conversations changed from what's wrong with this home to how will I spend the improvement allowance. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details about how we would structure this so that you had the protections you need as a landlord. But let me finish the story. 1 week, that weekend, we had applications and we picked our family. So not only did we save money by not spending $60,000, $70,000 on rehab, but the holding cost as we continue to pay utilities, continue to pay our mortgage payment, continue to have marketing costs week after week after week, that came to a crashing end as we found our family and we started collecting rent. And most of the families that are attracted to this, the family unit has, they're competent doing some of the rehab themselves. So think about it. In many cases, there was no labor expense. So the money went exclusively to cost of materials, which as an investor, you got more value for this. So from that point forward, began to use this improvement allowance time and time and time again. And if you take the difference between what we could have spent in that property, in these different properties, with what we released on the improvement allowance, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in extra profit. But there's also a second benefit for you investors, and that is that for the lease purchaser, it created the mentality of investing in the properties in anticipation of owning the properties. Some of these families did buy, so it was great. They got to improve this home along the way. to make it their dream home. And the families that didn't buy, we investors took back properties, honestly, in many cases, in better condition than when the families moved in, because they got used to, from the start, investing in the property. This one tip, the improvement allowance, has put an extra hundreds of thousands of dollars, time and time again, in our bank account. And there's a lot more of this that I'll be talking about. If this is helpful, everybody, be sure to subscribe and like this YouTube video.